Hey y'all, this is Andy from the Rules Lawyers. This is our Rule of the Week segment where we get together and talk about different rules within Age of Sigmar that people get confused about. The topic this week concerns the Ardboys, which are a unit within the Ironjawz faction, Destruction Grand Alliance. They have a champion who's called the Ardboy Boss, and I've seen a lot of people online getting confused about what exactly his rule is. So if you look at the war scroll for the Orruk Ardboys, you see that there's a section called Ardboy Boss, which is the leader of the unit. He's the one who's holding his axe up in the air and screaming "wah" or something. And the rule that he has says that the leader of this unit is an Ardboy Boss. Add 1 to all of their hit rolls. And I've seen a lot of discussion of people online saying, what does "their" mean? Usually when you have a war scroll that has a champion who adds 1 to just his hit rolls, it says something like add 1 to the hit rolls of this champion or something. For example, the Moon Clan Grots have a Grot Boss, and it says the leader of this unit is a Grot Boss. You can add 1 to any hit roll for a Grot Boss. And that's way clearer than in the Ardboys war scroll. Clearly they have different people writing these war scrolls, and they didn't really think about making sure that they made sense among all of the different war scrolls. So the different interpretations that I've heard are the one that matches all of the other war scrolls basically for infantry units, which is just the Ardboy Boss gets +1. Or I've heard people argue that because it says add 1 to all of their hit rolls, that the "their" refers to all of the Orruks in the Orruk Ardboys unit, meaning that they think that as long as the champion's alive, you're getting +1 to hit for every single model in this unit. And obviously, this seems like it would be a little bit overpowered compared to everything else. That means that all of the Ardboys would be hitting on 3+ until the champion's dead, and because you don't have to kill the champion until he's the last one remaining in the unit, you'd just be hitting on 3+ forever. I think that interpretation is a little bit foolish because it just doesn't really mesh with the way that they've written all of the other war scrolls. And sometimes you have to sort of read into what GW is thinking when they wrote the war scroll and go with what makes the most sense, even if the words don't specifically seem to say what they mean. So my argument is, I'm pretty sure that the "their" in the add 1 to all of their hit rolls refers to Ardboy Bosses specifically, because the object of the sentence before that is Ardboy Boss. So the leader of this unit is an Ardboy Boss, add 1 to all of their hit rolls, meaning all Ardboy Bosses get +1 to their hit rolls. You have 2 units of Ardboys in your army, then both of the Ardboys Bosses are getting +1. I've heard one other argument made that this war scroll is actually based on the old Black Orcs war scroll, which has a rule in the Compendium war scrolls section called Wheeze the Best, which lets you add 1 to all hit rolls for this unit if it's within 6 inches of a Black Orc Big Boss. And so the argument is that the Ardboys Boss is the AOS equivalent of the Black Orc Big Boss. I don't think that's really true for 2 reasons. One, we've got the fact that the Black Orcs in the Compendium War Scrolls actually have a Black Orc boss who is within the unit as opposed to the big boss, and his rule in the War Scroll is a little bit different. He makes 3 attacks instead of 2, rather than getting +1 to hit. But that demonstrates clearly that the old Black Orcs unit still had a champion who is separate from the big boss and had separate rules. Also, simply the fact that there is a unit called the Black Orc Big Boss that is a hero in AOS, and it's completely different from the champion that's within an infantry unit in AOS. So I just think, taking all of this into account, that it's clear that the Ardboy Boss just adds +1 to his own hit rolls and not to the other models in the unit, based on the fact that that matches up with other war scrolls for other units in Age of Sigmar, and the fact that the wording appears to be just a badly worded attempt at saying this, and the fact that the Black Orcs Compendium War Scroll demonstrates that the Ardboys Boss is not supposed to be a Black Orc Big Boss, and rather is just supposed to be the Black Orc Boss, since obviously Ardboys are just an updated version of the Black Orcs. So there you have it. Hopefully that clears up some confusion for people who were wondering about the Ardboys War Scroll. Check back next week for another one of our Rule of the Week segments.